Against the Sun is based on a harrowing true story from World War II, where 3 US Navy airmen crash land their torpedo bomber in the South Pacific in 1942 and find themselves on a tiny life raft surrounded by open ocean. No food, no water, no hope of rescue. Against incredible odds, these 3 virtual strangers must survive storms, sharks, starvation, and each other as they try to sail more than 1,000 miles to safety. Directed by Falk, this film stars Tom Felton, Jack Abel, and Garett Dillahunt.
You know, Falk, these are very, very tough films to make, and I don't say that from a perspective of the production design, because that's pretty easy. You can set it in one lot in a studio, and that can be the C. But very tough from the perspective of the actors, and it can go either way, right? So if it gets an Oscar nomination, then hey, that was the greatest performance ever. And if it doesn't, then who looked at you because you lost all your weight and you tried your best to look like this person who hasn't eaten, who hasn't had any water for days on end? That happens in this case too. So yeah, great. You know, fantastic performances, no doubt, but it leads to what? It's a pretty boring story economy.
I couldn't agree with you more, Mayank. I mean, this is a film about 3 strangers, 34 days, adrift in a raft. Please tell me we have already seen Unbroken last year.
Movies, yeah.
Before that, Life of Pi. There are so many films right from Hitchcock that have dealt with this subject. What possessed this director, Falk, to actually make a film on this subject? This was shot on the same lot that you're talking about. It's an open-air tank in Mexico where James Cameron shot the Titanic. And, you know, I mean, there is really nothing outside of great performances, of course. If this film was to stand on its alone and say this is it, of course, you know, the sun blistering, the shark attacks, the starvation, the praying for rain, all these elements to hold a film for that long, about 100 minutes with just 3 characters, takes a lot of doing. The director's last credit was directing a cookery show. So there is really not very much, you know, expertise or acumen over here to sustain this kind of thing. So buddy, yeah. I mean, really, exactly, what was he thinking?
Well, I can imagine, Fahad, exactly why they made this film, because it is, after all, a true story. We're all fascinated by true stories of people, like, you know, exemplifying such valor. I was struck particularly by the fact that, you know, even in that situation, these are armed forces people, and they maintain a certain hierarchy. I was struck by the fact that they drink pee, which our, you know, late Prime Minister used to do, Morarji Desai. I was struck by certain scenes that, you know, had the sharks going on here and there, but by and large, man, this movie bored the hell out of me. So I'm sorry, it's a Peko.
Well, I'm going to be more charitable than Peko. I'm going to say Dekho. Zarur dekho, TV pe dekho, fursat se dekho, Blu-ray pe dekho, but by all, you do not need to run out and watch it in the cinema halls unless you're a real masochist and want to spend 100 minutes out at sea.
All right, that's for Friday Double Bill this week. Tell us what you think of the show. Tell us what you think of the films. Leave us a comment. We'll get back to you, hopefully.